All right, hey everyone. We got a special guest in today, Mr. Aaron Chapman. Aaron, how you doing today, brother?
Good, man. Hopefully I'm as stimulating as that music.
Yes, sir. Yeah, man. So yeah, guys, we're coming out with a special weekly whiteboard. Our guest, Aaron Chapman here. Aaron, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself? I'm sure they've already noticed you from our SOFA Summit and everything, but yeah, why don't you just shout out to them?
So I've been doing the real estate investment finance thing since about 2003. I've been what they call a licensed loan originator since 1997. Well, I guess they didn't come out to licensing until about 2013. So 1997, I got in the industry. Been doing this for 23 years. I focus only on real estate investors for the finance piece. Do about a little over 100 to 120 transactions a month right now. We're just short of 1,000 transactions so far this year for real estate investors.
And you say that casually, but 100 loans in a month is huge. Like most lenders do about 5 or 10. So Aaron,
the average person in my industry.
So you said that very casually there. That's huge. He's like the top 20 lender in the nation in volume. So yeah, that's great, man.
Somewhere in the top 20, hopefully in the top 10 this year. The average person in my industry, 300,000 people in my industry doing what I do, between 3 and 4 transactions a month.
Right.
That's the average. In a refi boom, maybe 6, 7. You're kicking ass doing 10 to 12. And I'm very blessed to do 100 plus.
Yeah, so Aaron's got a huge team. I actually personally just closed on a house with Aaron, a personal residence. So yeah, he's definitely one of our top preferred lenders here. So yeah, reach out to him if you need more info from him. So yeah, we wrote down some topics. So let's go over appraisals. Yeah, what's happened with appraisals and all that? What's happened in the lending market right now?
Well, it's not just the lending market, it's the market in general. So when you think about the demand that's happening, you look at what the Fed has done. They've dumped $4 billion a month into, $4 billion a day into the mortgage-backed securities. When the whole COVID thing hit, when we had March 9th, when really everything started to come to pieces. Then March 20th, the Fed jumped in for 10 days. March 20th to March 30th, put in over $1 trillion in 10 days into the mortgage-backed securities market. If you don't understand the mortgage-backed securities market, that's going to be a whole other discussion. But that's where we get our money to lend. So when they started putting that money in there, started driving the interest rates back down because they spiked in early March. They went as high as 5.75%, charging almost then they came back down to the mid to high threes for real estate investors. You can imagine when you have owner-occupied rates in the 2s, investor rates in the 3s, the barrage of demand.
Right.
So the mortgage industry, the industry as a whole, has the capability, or at least the staffing capability, to fund approximately $2.5 trillion in loans per year. We have well over $4 trillion in demand
in the
just
pipeline.
Right now in the pipeline.
That's crazy.
For like the next 30 to 45 days. So think about that demand. The amount that we have, more than nearly double the amount that we do in a year, is on demand now. So when you start thinking about that, it's not just the lending industry that gets affected by that. We're talking about, we brought up
appraisals, home inspectors, all the people in there, your staff, title companies are overloaded, insurance, the turnaround. So all those have delays, and that adds up.
Right. County records, they're
the county office.
Off, because of COVID. So that's taking time to get done. Let's focus on appraisal for a second. The reason I want to focus there, go back to the crash, right? Then you start getting into heavy appraisal independence laws. They changed how appraisals get done.
Right.
Fannie and Freddie incorporated what they call the Uniform Collateral Data Portal, where they start collecting all the data on every appraiser and every appraisal done since 2007. And then 2013, they went live with what they call Collateral Underwriter, which is an underwriting engine that underwrites the appraisal to look at how it compares to the data they have. Well, in all that, they wrote into this through the Dodd-Frank Act and some other parts of that. There's a lot of legislation that dictate what it takes to become an appraiser. You have to have I think it's an associate's degree.
And you have to have like 500 hours of apprentice experience. You have to take all these courses. I have looked into it.
You have to have a 2-year degree.
Yeah, 2-year degree.
Then you have to do the apprentice thing for 2 years.
Yeah.
Apprentice for
and
2
certain
years.
hours too.
How much money do you make as an apprentice?
Very any. I don't think any. Yeah.
Hardly any.
It's nuts.
So hardly any money. And then you have to find somebody willing to let you follow them around for 2 years. Right? And what if you have a personality problem? He gets rid of you. And you got to start, I don't know if it continues. I don't know. But what we're seeing here, I actually happened to be on a yacht, interestingly enough, a couple of weeks ago, with the owners of the second largest appraisal management company in the United States.
Sweet.
And I asked them, what's the average age of an appraiser? They said it might be approaching 60. We have a problem here, folks. When you have the amount of demand that we have, and you're sending all these appraisal requests, it's taking us 3 weeks sometimes just to get an appraisal accepted Not even done, just accepted. The real big problem I'm seeing here with this is the real estate community, for some reason, is deaf to this information. Now, I'm not talking about folks like Reedy and Company. I'm not talking about the folks here at Memphis Investment Properties. I'm talking about just Joe Realtor. For some reason, they think they can still write 20-day contracts. If you see that, especially as a seller, don't accept it. Just know you're going to have a problem. Start talking about the realities of the market before you start accepting somebody's request that doesn't understand what's happening. So, for one, we do know that's taking time. 3 weeks to get an appraisal accepted many times. You still have to have the appraisal done. You still have to have it written up. You have to have it submitted to the lender. You still have to run it through the collateral underwriting engine we just talked about. You're still another week to 2 weeks. So understand the timing here. You can't just call the lender and bitch. You can look at my phone right now. It's blowing up right now. People complaining about appraisal.
And what we're doing on this is, of course, we sell them when the rental's underway. So we actually are projecting, hey, the rental's going to be done in 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We order the appraisal then.
Yes.
So that way, because we don't wait till our rental's completely done. We wait a couple weeks before to order the appraisal because, we'd be another 2 weeks out.
Exactly.
It's kind of what we're figuring there. Then, of course, we're understanding and working, writing up our contracts a little longer. But yeah, we'll of course work and all that. And then just trying to find the best appraisers, we can't really do much, but just work with the appraisers, be the best we can for them. Like, they ask for any info, boom, we'll get it to them quick, don't delay on their end.
Great. We have do a good job on the property. If you let an appraiser into a property that's a mess, right, and he's not seeing that quality there, of course he's going to go with what is equivalent, which is another mess. He's not appraising the property, he's appraising what he sees. And there's a big risk letting an appraiser in too early, right, especially when you're in the process of rehab. Because then you're expecting them to use their imagination. I'll just tell you appraiser's imagination.
They'll just think that's what it is that day, usually.
And they will try and imagine what it might look like. Their imagination sucks. They can't do that. So there's a fine line we got to tread there. The only thing I can say is patience. Patience and understand your holding costs. That's going to be a little bit longer.
Yeah, anyway, so that's what's there with the appraisal. That's probably one of the biggest rate limiting steps right there right now.
Correct.
Okay, cool.
Correct.
Got a couple questions. Algernon Brown, what's the minimum FICO?
So I have been able to get loans done for investors at 660 and higher. Right?
660.
But it's not easy. When you start looking at that, the thing that's the biggest risk with a lower FICO, 840, they call it risk-based pricing. So when Fannie and Freddie created this way of tiering the interest rates or the costs associated with what they see as risk. So your rates go up when it's a riskier type of deal. Credit score going down every 20 points, you get assessed more expense or higher rates for that risk. And sometimes if you're talking about lower purchase price deals, like sub $80,000 purchase price, you may not be able to get a loan if you have a 640, a 660 or a 680 because the risk-based pricing is going to push it so high that we violate low-income housing regulation. So now you're in a funky scenario. So just know if your credit score is below 700, you really want to start working on it. If you can get it above 740, that's where you're going to be best served.
Yep. And that's a great question, Algernon. And also, Aaron Chapman is with Security National Mortgage Company. You can go to aaronchapman.com, and that links to his website and all that.
2 A's, 1 R, AARON. If it doesn't go up, aaronchapman.com doesn't pop up, go to Aaron B. Chapman, B as in Bravo.com. That one always works. For some reason, it took me forever to buy the aaronchapman.com, and now things pain.
Love it. So, Aaron, you're lending all over to lots of turnkey providers like ours, other markets. What are you seeing? Because you have the opportunity to kind of see the overall view of what's going on in the investment real estate realm of these single families. So, what kind of trends are you seeing typically?
Well, I'm seeing a lot of stress from the newer investors worried about what's going to happen with the moratoriums and stuff like that, or what's going to happen when it comes to not having to pay your rents. Mm-hmm. There's the one thing I am seeing, the trend. They're paying their rents. And the reason being, let's think about what we're dealing with here. And a lot of times in many of the markets, we're seeing some difficulty, especially your coastal markets, with rents being paid in your apartment complexes because they want to go into a house. They want to rent that single family home. Why? Because if you're talking about having a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and you've got kids living at home, doing school from home, they're trying to work from home, not a comfortable situation. The neighbor who shares your wall just lost his job, and he's drinking at 8 a.m. and having it out with his kids. Yeah. You don't want to share a wall. So what I'm finding is rents are getting paid. And so the worry that people are carrying, it's justified worry. But in reality, the practical application of it is those who own single-family rentals seem to be doing very, very well. That I'm noticing.
So going on that end, with us, we've looked at the data. It's only about 1 to 1.5% that are actually qualifying under that eviction moratorium that Trump put out, because they have to prove that they've applied for other subsidiary housing. They have to try to apply for all these other things first before they can state like, oh, I have COVID, and like not pay their rent. So it's only a few amount of people that even meet that thing right now, what we're seeing. So, I mean, we're seeing only a 1% dip in our collections over the past 5-year average. So at least in Memphis, that's because our market's a little different because we have a lot of logistics, AKA, all the online shopping, that's what our jobs are all about. And that's just ramped up. So at least here it's doing all right. Yeah.
Well, one of the pluses is, like you said, it's a government-backed process. Look at the fine print, right? Fine print is in there somewhere, and it's kind of working in the favor of the real estate investor.
Right. Yep. Okay, cool. That's good to hear about the national lending. Then another thing we've seen is it's a little bit harder for some of our buyers when they're self-employed versus a W-2 income. Can you explain kind of how the underwriting of that, why it's a little more difficult if you're self-employed to qualify for a loan right now? What's going on?
The only real difference is you have to verify your business is still working. Is really it. I mean, let's just get down to it. When we're talking about qualifying for financing, whether you're self-employed, whether you're employed, however your income is, we have to be able to continue to show your income is working, right? So when there's always been a necessity to send out what they call a verification of employment right before we send out before we close the loan. So within 3 days of closing, they have to verify your employer, you still have a job. It's no different for self-employed borrowers. They got to verify you still have an income. It used to be that we just got a P&L from you, or just say, hey, your business is still working. We go online, see you still have a website up. They're okay with that. We can't do that anymore because businesses have sometimes slid down or their income has dropped. I had one guy recently decided that he was going to become super investor and let his business go because he was going to make more money in real estate. Well, he just started a whole new business. You can't do that. Right, so
it has to be the same entity making the money, or typically, unless it's the same business practice, though.
Some people went from an LLC to an S corp. They're the exact same business. We can prove it's the same business, and it's still doing right. You're still making income. You can provide us a P&L that shows it's continuing to trend in the same direction it has been going these last couple of years. Then it just makes sense. We're just verifying that we're not putting those who trust us. This is people's Wall Street investment capital. This is their pension. This is their retirement. They're trusting us to hand that to somebody else that they believe will not only pay them back, but it's going to be a good deal when it comes to the house that they're investing, or at least they're securing their investment with.
And the capability. Yeah, here's another one that I kind of looked up the other day. So let's say back when interest rates were at 3.5% for homeowners, personal rent, and you buy a $500,000 house, your monthly payment on that with, just that loan amount, that loan amount was like 200 and whatever. It was like 2,200 something. Right now, since interest rates are around that, let's just say, give or take, whatever it is, you could actually, for that same payment, buy something for like I worked out the numbers, it's like $568,000. Isn't that just crazy how rates are going so much lower? You can afford 68 grand more for the same exact, like whatever that payment was.
Yeah, it's just all nuts. You did is just shrunk the interest requirement.
It's nuts. So I think that's showing just like this lending at such low rates just going to keep increasing prices because people will pay the same amount monthly, and that's all they look at is people are looking at that.
You're driving the market up. So owning real estate, because a lot of people, they want to buy real estate, and one of the things I ask them, why do you want to become a real estate investor? He says, well, because of appreciation. It seems to be one of the first things that come out of their mouth. Well, we're in an environment that's creating appreciation. And when you think about inflation, go to shadowstats.com, as in shadow statistics, and you can look at the inflation tables there. You click on the alternate data tab across the top, click on inflation, and you'd be amazed to see what real inflation is, not the stuff that we see from the government.
Right, reported by the government, which is so biased, yeah.
And it's way biased, because that way you don't have to raise a person's Social Security, you don't have to raise pensions when you keep inflation very, very low, because it's written into it, they have to raise the wage-based. They have to inflate the wages based
off what they're reporting, yeah.
Well, they're reported very low. They're paying sub 1%. And I know dang well your costs are not going up by just 1%, because I know mine aren't. Well, when you look at that and start understanding what inflation is doing, it's driving housing up like crazy. So appreciation is always going to be there. But the real estate investor also needs to understand, even if you don't have any cash flow, if you buy a home that stays reasonably rented the entire time you own it, just for let's just say a 30-year example, 30-year fixed, just having somebody there paying off that note, take whatever that note is, divide it by 30, right? That 30 years that it takes your tenant to pay it off, if you divide that into your initial investment of 20%, that means your investment is growing by 13.33% of the original investment every year for 30 years, before cash flow, before rent raises, before appreciation, before tax benefits. If we had time to get to those other four things, and you would see hundreds of percent return. There's no reason to not get into real estate.
Right. I heard one of your guys, he talks about he doesn't invest for cash flow or tax write-offs. He invests to hedge against inflation.
Correct.
Right. It's like, because, you know, and whatever, if let's say your mortgage is $1,000 or $2,000, I mean, in 10 years from now, $2,200 is going to be an easy payment, you know, or 30 years from now, just the value of that dollar.
Now, that's going to be like 5 lattes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Maybe something like that. So anyways, it just really hedges. And inflation, we're just talking about billions, trillions getting put in the market. This is a great way to lock in today's inflation dollars and pay that for 30 years from now.
Exactly.
So
I mean, if you go back 30 years.
Yeah, hopefully that makes sense. Right.
1990, right? Do you remember?
Just barely born, baby. 2 years old.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Okay, I was riding my skateboard and buying milk for my mom in 1990. I think I was a sophomore. So I could go to the store with $1 and buy a gallon of milk, something for myself, still come home.
Right, dude. Right.
So if you go and you look at what you could buy for $100, my mom used to go in the 80s for $100, come out with 3 shopping carts full of food, fill the whole car up. She could barely drive the thing home. It would take us an hour to unload it for just a little over $100. If you looked at 1990, what you could buy for $100, it'd take over $1,100 today to buy the exact same thing. So understand where the dollar's value is going. So when you talked about hedging inflation, if you can borrow right now, we've been getting somewhere in that
for investors, for homeowners too.
If you can get that locked in for 30 years, that means the payment may be the same. Let's say you bought a $100,000 house, $80,000 loan with a $410 a month payment. That $410 for 30 years every month, even though the value of that same dollar you're giving them is losing value, you may pay somewhere in the range of about $145,000 in principal and interest on an $80,000 loan, but you're going to pay an actual value of that dollar just over $60,000 in actual dollar value. You borrowed $80,000, put it to work, you paid them back $60,000 actual dollar value.
So, I mean, if you really look at it that way, it's almost in theory like the lender's paying you $44,000 to go and get that. You know what I mean?
It's true.
In essence, it's like if you do it for the full 30 years. So it's really whoever holds on.
Why would they do that? Why would they do it for 30 years? Got that first.
Great. So yeah, we've talked about. So it's stupid. Why are they lending that out? It's so low. And the thing is, where they get you is the amortization, what we were talking about. Those first 4 to 5 years is where they hit you with high
take a look at your amortization table. You've never done it before.
Like the first 4 or 5 years of that, let's call it $1,000 you're paying, 90% of that would go towards interest. But then but then the last 5 years, it's flipped. So of course they're just betting that you're going to hold on to the property for 5 to 7 years.
Exactly.
Which is the average.
You ever noticed? I've noticed it. I've been in this game for 23 years. I've noticed every 4 to 5 years, refi boom comes up. Mm-hmm. How are we going to refi boom every 45 years? It's interesting. They're going to offer you a 30-year fixed blanket to wrap yourself up in and keep you warm, but every 4 to 5 years, somebody convinces you need to refi it for the lower rate. And then you can just add the cost to your loan. Well, if like Sean said, if you're heavy interest, 90+% interest for the first 5 years,
and you do it every 4 or 5.
Then you do it again in year 4, and again in year 4, and you're adding $3,800 every time to your mortgage, who's winning? You're not getting ahead, but if you wrapped it up for that 30 years and you stay there in that 30 years, you're paying them back less than you even borrowed in actual dollar value. That's why they're willing to offer it, because you're not going to do it. They're going to build their marketing schemes in a way to ensure you don't do that. So what I tell people, if you're going to refinance, do it when you can pull cash out and buy another property. Make your properties grow by themselves. That's none of your money. That's somebody else's money building your empire. But if you're not going to do that, don't go for rate. Rate doesn't matter.
Right.
And because rate doesn't matter, it doesn't matter if the rates go up. 6-7% is still penciling for real estate investors. As long as you're cash flowing, you shouldn't care.
Yeah, I agree. I think refi only if you're pulling cash out and you're going to use that cash for an investment, for something that's going to make you more and more money, would be my general thoughts. Any other questions for Aaron, guys? We've got a couple more minutes as we are on here. Aaron Chapman, one of our most experienced lenders here. Mine doesn't update good. Have we had any others? Oh, here we go. What are market rents? I'll answer that later on. Anyways, guys, yeah, that's Aaron Chapman, man. Love having you over here, man.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for coming.
Memphis. It's always good to come to Memphis. You guys haven't been to Memphis. Well, wait till COVID's done and come to
Right.
Memphis. Place is awesome.
That's right. That's right. Cool, guys. Thanks so much, Aaron. Thanks, everyone, for checking out our weekly whiteboard. We're so excited to have Aaron here. Hopefully, we're getting more and more guests as we're coming along.
Thank you,
See you later, brother.
Appreciate
Bye-bye.
you, man.
Yep. Is that it? Oh, should I keep going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Aaron.
You got 2 questions.
Okay, yeah, cool. Now I'll go on to my own thing. All right, sorry, guys. We're still rolling. Thank you, Aaron. Okay, cool. Gaurav. I can't pronounce your name. I'm sorry, Gaurav. Okay, Sean, how is the syndication coming along? All right, so yeah, we did our first syndication. We bought it in May. We projected rents to be at $695. They're like 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments. It's 124 unit. Our rents, actual rents, we actually just rented, I believe, 1 or 2 this weekend, and they're moving in on Monday at $750. So we're actually getting rents a little bit better. A study just came out. I wish I could source the article here for you, but Brad Reedy, my partner, gave it to me, that Memphis has one of the strongest apartment rents, like growth, through this COVID. We've had a 1.3% rent growth through this crash, so the past 8-9 months. So that's going pretty good, I'd say, for our apartment growth, and we've seen it. The reason why, I think it's just our area. It's in a White Haven, and there's just a high demand for good quality, clean, and safe rentals. Like in that sub-market where we're at, a lot of the other landlords nearby, they have stuff for like $595 rent, but it's not a really safe area, not a cleaned up unit. The roof's leaking. The people are just seeing ours is all freshly renovated and all that, and they're wanting to move in. So it's kind of the same theory on our turnkeys. Like when you present a nice, clean, and fresh property, people will pay, $100 premium a month to live in that property. Okay, what are market rents? Market rents, I don't know what you mean, like specifically in Memphis or what sub-market, but market rents is defined as just what the average tenant would be willing to pay per a type of class, like either a 2-bed, 3-bedroom, or 1-bedroom apartments or single families. That would be what market rents are. All right, Conrad Zeltman. How long should a refi take right now? Seems like they're taking forever. Okay, Aaron's still here. Aaron, what? Yes, so I think they're kind of pushing. What's up? Yeah, come on up, man. That one's for you. So I tried to refi, dude. I feel like they put refis on the back end versus purchases. I mean, that's what I would do strategically.
Purchase has a
it's
date.
time sensitive.
You have sellers on the other side. Sometimes they got a moving truck waiting for them. Sometimes there's costs associated with holding costs. We don't close on time. Refis, 4 days, absolute minimum. 60 days is not going to be an uncommon thing. I've heard big banks claim 90. So if you're getting anybody saying they can do it between 45 and 60, that's not an abnormal thing. Anybody claims 30, be very, very suspect.
Right. Yeah, dude. I've seen that, and they're just pushing those off because, I would do the purchases first. You only have so many appraisers. You can refi whenever.
A lot of people being affected in the appraisal thing. Not in the appraisal thing, but in the purchase thing. Only one person being affected by the refi. And unfortunately, that is us, the consumer, and you just have to be patient with it.
Of your volume, are you doing a lot of refis, or you're mainly just doing purchases?
I'm 80+% purchase.
So 20 refi, 20%.
So we're doing probably about 23, 24 refinances a month, but I'm encouraging it to be, the cash out only if we can. I spend an excessive amount of time talking people out of the refi. Amazing. They're like, I can begin to tell you how much time I invest in just talking them out of giving me business. I say, guys, it'd be so much easier for me to say, yes, we'll do it. Wait 90 to 120 days and we'll get it closed. It'd be way easier for me. I spent a lot of time pushing business away. I'd make a lot more money, but it's not about me. It's about you. Making sure that you're taken care of.
I like that you do. I was laughing because, who hears of a lender saying like, oh, actually, it might not be in your best interest to help me make money, right? Get a refinance.
Oh, yeah. I'd make a stupid amount of money.
Just refis, rate and terms. But
I can't do that to you.
As mentioned, Aaron will help you. He'll look on your side and be like, look, man, what are you going to use this for? How is it? And he's done lots of deals himself. He's a real estate investor himself. He'll be like, well, personally, I'd hold off until you have more equity to have enough to buy a house to make it worth that cash out. And all that.
And even with the cash out refis, those are very important to us because we know it's going to spur the next purchases. So if you're thinking about doing a cash out to buy a property, don't go looking for properties before that cash out refi is done.
Or lock
Please
one up.
don't. Too often we see that. It's like, hey, I got this contract. Well, I need money, so let's just refi my house.
Well, yeah.
You put yourself in a really, really tough position. Don't do that.
Right.
Go get the money first, then go shopping. And there's this thing about shopping. When people shop, they buy. don't shop until you're ready to buy.
Right.
You don't get yourself caught up in that.
Yeah, reasons being when you refi, that messes up your DTI, which could mess up that purchase you have locked up and have earnest money on that you could potentially lose your earnest money on. Also messes up your seller, the timing there. And then also, I mean, that's basically it. It's just like
you've lost the trust of your seller, your agents, all
right, all that stuff. Okay, cool. Okay, thanks, Aaron. If another question pops in, man, we can get them on. Yeah, love you, man. Yeah, so that was it on the new syndication. Love you very much. Oh, Aaron, dude, I'm so sorry, man. We forgot to mention your books, dude. Get on up here. Here. Sorry, man. You're in forever, I guess. Okay.
Check it out.
So yeah, talk about these.
So I wrote over 370 pages. I got introduced to an editor. She used to work for Tony Robbins, really, really awesome woman. Actually helped him write his first few books, as I understand. Now, that's just what I understand. So she read it, 370 pages, and excuse the language here, but she says, "Hey, all good content, but nobody gives a shit." I'm like, okay.
Too long, yeah.
She goes, "So you write something somebody cares about first." So then we sat down together for 2 full days and we banged something out, and I didn't like how it was, so I rewrote it all. But I couldn't send people over 200 pages because to me, it's like, who's going to pick up 200 pages? So I decided I'm going to take one chapter at a time, dive deep, 30 pages or less, into a novel style type of deal that we grab one at a time. You can bang through it, possibly in the bathroom, right? And then move on to the next one when you have time. So the first 4 are out. Point your head and heart, your ass will follow. This basically, if you
great title.
You believe it and you write it down, it happens. It's in here. Repeated situation in my life that it's happened. I've done that. Next one, gratitude.
I want to talk about that one.
A practical application of gratitude. Ultimately, this is 2 contrasting events all within the same week, showing how gratitude is actually an economy. So it's not something between me and God, but it is. But it's not something where there's this mystical gratitude pinata that's going to drop, candy on you if you're walking around with a goofy smile on your face. This is actually between
a currency.
Us and us.
It's a currency. It's
definitely a currency.
It's a physical thing. Love it.
Book 3, quit jerking off. Pretty self-explanatory. And that is, I am an internet preacher, so I could wear the suit. This was shot inside my cabin in Branson, Missouri, which used to be a chapel in the 1800s. Very, very cool.
Awesome.
Steel Running explains why I wear the hat. I'm not going to tell you here. That's a picture of my pop with the same hat on. And the saw he bought was made back in the 1960s. It still runs. It's never been rebuilt. That old steel chainsaw is awesome.
Still running.
Still running.
Love it.
And my pop is still running
there.
because he cuts wood to heat his house still every winter. He actually did it this week.
To heat his house.
Tree in the house I bought next door to rehab. And he's 75, 76 years old.
Cool.
And he still keeps going.
And they can find these AaronChapman.com.
Not yet. You have to go to Amazon, type in QJO Initiative. Aaron Chapman, you'll find it because there's several Aaron Chapman authors.
And then these
are
going to like charity, right, or some sort of thing, or like some proceeds or whatever.
All 4 of the books, all 4 of these are going through a publisher, and every cent gets sent to a charity. When they send me the royalty checks, I write it out to a charity. I show everybody so that way they know every royalty I was paid on this goes to charities. There's another charity that we're actually very heavy into. John contributed.
Yeah,
I think you're the first contributor.
Yeah, I jumped on it, man. So. And let me talk about it, man. I think it's cool. It's for like abused, enslaved, sex slave girls, right? And
kids in general.
Yeah, kids in general. Kids. The slavery's still out there. I was like, oh my gosh, I've been aware of this for a while. But when you did it, I've always been wanting to, anyways, donate. So I donated a little bit. But I like that you're incentivizing people at each closing. If they put in 50, you match that, right?
Yep. So I put in $50 for every closed transaction. I encourage my investors to do
that as well.
Yep. Just go to aaronbchapman.com, main page, scroll down. It'll be very, very evident which one references our campaign for the sex trafficking that's going on with children. And you can click to donate, and it takes you right to the Operation Underground Railroad website. Yeah. So what these guys are, these are ex-CIA, ex-State Department, ex-FBI,
and even like cyber guys that find the target. Yeah,
find the people that are selling kids.
Right.
They will negotiate, go in there, and they will pretend to be buyers. They'll buy them $10,000 a piece to get them out of slavery. And after they figure out where these kids are housed, then they get with local governments and they take them down.
Right.
So right now we've raised, I think, close to $15,000.
Dude, that's awesome, man.
This every single month for the rest of my business existence. I'm praying for over $100,000 a year going forward. It'd be great to be able to say collected over the lifetime of my career, $100 million. That'd be phenomenal.
So what made you think of there's so many charities out there. There's people that need medical attention, housing, education. What made you decide on this one? That's a question I actually have.
A friend of mine told me about a movie he watched on Amazon Prime called Operation Toussaint. Look it up. Operation Toussaint. I can't Toussant. I think is how you spell that. And it was the actual story behind a guy who created this whole movement. He worked in the State Department, as I recall. His name is Tim Ballard. He retired early, and with donated funds created this thing. And then you get to see him operating. His guys operating. You see them on a yacht, clinking glasses with these guys, and basically
undercover, acting like they're the buyers,
to purchase these children. And these guys bragging about what they had done. And it moves you so much. In fact, I'm starting to get goosebumps when I talk about it. It moves me that much that I needed to do something. I know what.
Right.
So I started with the books. And then I created, then I thought we'd do that. And I created something called the Quit Jerking Off Initiative. In fact, the book is QJO Initiative, Quit Jerking Off Initiative, which it's a YouTube show right now. I'll get Sean the link where we've got several episodes out now. It's the Outdoor Channel meets the Business Channel. Rather than having my own podcast, I take business leaders, and Sean will be there soon with Mr. Reedy and Brad, and we're going to go out either rock crawling, long-range shooting, bow fishing, fly fishing, and then at the end of the day, sitting around the fire and having that deep conversation about business that you want to know where they came from. What hell did they go through to become successful? What hell do they keep going through to maintain their success? Because it's not easy. Success is rented, and the rent's due every damn day.
Love it, man. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, so I jumped right on that. So I encourage everyone else to donate to that cause if you can.
If you've closed an investment property anytime recently, $50 per investment property. I don't care who it was that closed it for you. Go to aaronbchapman.com.
Then I really like this one that you mentioned. This one reminds me, I agree, it's all about, writing down your goals, right? Stuff like that. I see that with the book I read, Think and Grow Rich, kind of relates to that, right? You have to believe something first, in your conscious. It's 80% mental, 20% tactical, how to do it, what to do. It's really just believing it. So I'm sure that'll be probably something like that.
Yep. And one last thing before I step off and shut this thing down, guys. Think and Grow Rich you brought up. Well, two things. Go find out Witting the Devil. That was actually written at the same time as Think and Grow Rich by the same.
I've heard of that one.
By the same author. And just read it.
Napoleon Hill.
Read it. It's awesome. The other is a Master Key System. You got to get it. It's $3.99 on Amazon. This is the greatest book I've ever read outside of Scripture itself. And this is basically what Napoleon Hill went through. It's a correspondence course that's now put into a book. Follow it exactly as it said, and it'll change your life.
My marker drop for Aaron, man. Thank you so much, buddy.
Thanks, brother.
Have a good one, man. Yeah.